Thank you, Tanika. Thank you very much. And welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us. We're excited to be here today, and we want to share some important information with you about affordable repayment plans, as well as default and those consequences, and also about our new program, Fresh Start. Next slide. And again, our agenda, I want to go over a few terms to begin with. Must know vocabulary. And again, getting out of default with Fresh Start, and then we'll transition to my colleague, and she'll cover some information, some powerful, important information you don't want to miss about using the loan simulator. And also, we'll go over some helpful resources you can use after this webinar as well. And we'll take a few moments to answer some of your questions and give you some answers to some key questions you may have. And we're also always interested, as usual, in your feedbacks. You'll have an opportunity to give us some of your feedback by completing our survey. Next slide. Let's begin, and let's start with some vocabulary. Next slide. Terms to know, and you may know some of these terms, but some of you may not. We want to make sure that you're clear, so you'll see these words very often when participating in the loan program for federal student aid. Promissory note, delinquent, default, rehabilitation. These are all terms that you need to be familiar with and understand. Of course, the promissory note is the document that you'll actually sign. It's your loan application, and it has some specific conditions and terms on it that outlines your rights and responsibility as a borrower. So we want to make sure you're aware about what that document is and the weight it holds. And delinquent. This is basically a term that lets you know when a borrower becomes delinquent and doesn't make payments according to their due date, and also some serious consequences that can occur after 90 days. And default. You want to definitely avoid this. Default. This is when a person has not made any restitution or any payment beyond the 270 days and past their due date, and you lose some eligibility and some other consequences occur. We want to make sure that you're aware of those and how to avoid those. So stay tuned for more information around that, as well as rehabilitation. And here's an opportunity or method by which a student can take advantage of to rehabilitate their defaulted loan. So if you fall into this category, don't sweat, don't be disturbed. We're going to provide an opportunity for you today to learn how you can get out of default if you are, or if you know of a colleague or friend or family member who may be in default, you want to definitely make sure they're aware about rehabilitation. Next slide. Getting out of default with Fresh Start. Next slide. Here is some information about what default is first. So before we go into Fresh Start, we want to make sure you understand what default is. So we don't know if you're on the call today as a simple student loan person interested in student loans, or if you're already in default, or you're delinquent, not yet in default. But we want to make sure you're clear. A federal student loan goes into default when a borrower fails to repay a loan according to the promissory note. We talked about that word earlier, promissory note. Again, the first day after the borrower misses a student loan payment, they become delinquent. So you want to make sure you're on time and you understand your due date and make sure you pay according to that due date. Again, the most 270 days, you definitely want to make sure you do not fall into a category of default where you've missed payments for over 270 days. This is something you definitely want to avoid. So call your servicer, your loan servicer, get help. Find out ways and things and tools you can take advantage of to avoid the 270-day default period if you're running into personal problems or you're having challenges with not being able to pay your student loan. Next slide. And again, what are some of the consequences of default on your federal student loan? Loan acceleration, loss of eligibility, credit score, or treasury offset. Loan acceleration, which simply means your total balance due over time normally will now be due immediately in full. So again, you won't have that grace period you had before default. So if you definitely fall in the category of default, you definitely will be required to pay your loan in full upfront immediately. Loss of eligibility. No longer will you be able to take advantage of things like deferment or forbearance. And you'll also lose your eligibility and benefits to participate in any other federal student loans or any other federal programs. And of course, your credit score will be negatively impacted and will report information to the credit bureaus, which might prevent you from being able to buy real estate or to make certain transactions that you want to get involved with, like buying a car or home and so forth and so on, or getting a credit card. So again, you want to avoid these particular consequences. And Treasury offset. This is when, of course, the Department of the Treasury will take your refund if you're eligible for a tax refund or any other federal funds. Those dollars will be taken and applied towards your student loan. Next slide. A couple more consequences you definitely want to avoid: wage garnishment, where your employer will be required to give a portion of your income to repay the defaulted student loan. And also, you might be aware that there may be additional associated fees like court fees, collection fees, or attorney's fees that might be added to your balance. So again, these are things you definitely want to avoid when it comes to student loans and these consequences. Next slide. Getting out of default with Fresh Start. What is Fresh Start? Okay, to the bottom right of your slide, you'll see a QR code. Pull your phone out, take a picture, and it will take you directly to the page at studentaid.gov/Fresh Start. Will give you all the information you need to know about a new program that's out under the Biden administration. The Fresh Start program, as it says here on the screen, is a one-time temporary program. One-time temporary program by the U.S. Department of Education that offers special benefits for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. And again, including credit reporting protections, so no longer will you have that negative information reported to credit bureaus, and also your status cleared up in the government credit reporting agencies or systems. And you also become eligible again for federal student loan programs under federal student aid. So again, borrowers can enroll in Fresh Start through at least September of 2024. So again, don't procrastinate, don't hesitate, take advantage of this program right now. So if you're in default or close to it, you want to make sure that you're aware of the Fresh Start program. Next slide. Which loans are eligible for the Fresh Start program? So if you have any of these loans listed on the left side of your screen, such as defaulted William D. Ford direct loans or defaulted FFEL loan program, that stands for Federal Family Education Loan Program, or defaulted Perkins loans held by the U.S. Department of Education. If you have any of these loans, these are eligible for the Fresh Start program. However, loans that are not eligible include the private student loans you may have, or defaulted Perkins loans held by schools, or defaulted health education assistance loans programs. And you see here on the screen also that includes student loans remaining with the U.S. Department of Justice for ongoing litigation. So again, if you have any of these type loans, these are not eligible for the Fresh Start program. So make sure you again go to our studentaid.gov/Fresh Start to learn more information. Next slide. What are benefits of Fresh Start? Again, it gives you access to federal student aid by being involved in the Fresh Start program. You could apply for federal grants as well as loans again. This could help you complete an unfinished degree. So if you want to go back to school, you have the opportunity to take new loans and take advantage of fresh grants like Pell Grant or SEOG grants or many other grants or federal programs. You're eligible for other federal government loans. Also, stop collections. We talked about the problems and consequences related to bad credit reports. This process will stop in its entirety if you take advantage of the Fresh Start program now. So as I mentioned before, at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see the QR code, or you can go to studentaid.gov/Fresh Start. Next slide. What are the benefits of Fresh Start? Again, a couple more benefits. You'll get your whole loan restored, the ability to rehabilitate the loan. Again, only Fresh Starts programs are students who apply for the Fresh Start program, will be eligible for this rehabilitation advantage. Again, but Fresh Start won't count as your one chance to rehabilitate your loans. You only get one chance to rehab your loans if you're in default, but if you take advantage of the Fresh Start, it won't count against you. And again, credit reporting changes starting in December of 22. Defaulted loans held by U.S. Department of Education were reported as current rather than in collection. So that whole status change will boost your credit score and prevent you from being negatively reported as a delinquent borrower. Again, all defaulted borrowers temporarily have these benefits, but they must use the fresh start to get out of default or keep them long term. Next slide. How do I apply for Fresh Start? Here we go. There's 3 easy ways to apply for Fresh Start. I mentioned earlier, you pull your phone out. You can take a picture of the QR code on the screen. You can visit our debt resolution federal student aid website at myeddebt.ed.gov, or you can give us a call at 1-800-621-3115. And if you're deaf or hard of hearing, call 1-877-825-9923. Or simply send us a letter in the mail. You can write us a letter indicating I would like to use Fresh Start to bring my loans back into good standing. Let us know your name, your social security number, and your date of birth, followed by the statement I just read. I would like to use Fresh Start to bring my loans back into good standing, and send us the letter to Greenville, Texas, and we'll go ahead and receive your response and reply accordingly. So that's it in a nutshell. You want to definitely make sure you avoid those consequences we mentioned earlier, avoid default, and take advantage of the Fresh Start program by going to studentaid.gov/Fresh Start to learn more information. And you can also contact our debt resolution office at myeddebt.ed.gov. Next slide. And now I want you to listen closely to our next presenter, my colleague, and we're going to make sure that we give you all the information necessary about the loan simulator. Shanique?
Thank you, Fred. So let's get into the loan simulator as I present a demo. What we'd like to do is show you the 2 different versions of loan simulator. Currently, if you're logged in, you will see the logged in experience, which will guide you through loan simulator. Or if you want to start from scratch, where you just want to see how your loans could look in the various different scenarios that we offer, you could start from scratch. For today's demo, what we'd like to do is show you some of the information that we have regarding the 3 intents of loan simulator. If you have a fresh start and you're trying to simulate borrowing more, you can go through this Guide Me section, which will allow you to choose your program at your current school or at a different school if you choose. And it'll allow you to show how many years that you have remaining. So you can input various different parts of information and try to see how much your loans will cost or your repayment plan will cost you once you actually finish. So right now, this could include your parents or your personal information. What we're looking for, just in case you are confused, will be information regarding how much you make. So for right now, we'll put 0 to 30,000, and we are looking for maybe 43,000 based on Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University. So in this case, I will ask for 44,000. Continue. And then I will put that my current salary is 15,000. I'm currently doing work study and I'm not sure how much money I'll make. In addition, I have a little part-time job, so I'm going to include that salary here. And then I will continue. I'm currently single. And here we're looking for how many children you have. So these are kids that you actually birth or unborn children. Here where it says how many other dependents do you have, this is where you can include any other children that you may be taking care of, spouse, parents, or relatives. So I will put 1 as well. So because I'm logged in, I'm currently seeing all of my subsidized loans as they appear, as well as all my unsubsidized loans. If I had any other loan types, such as Perkins or other added loans that I chose to add myself through this little token right here, it would show up here. So all the loans that are being considered as I try to borrow more will populate. So based on this information, I will hit the federal aid loan limit. So it's telling me how much I will be eligible to borrow for undergraduate education. And at this point, it would be zero. My payments would have various different ranges per month over the next 22 years on a standard repayment plan. So if you're not necessarily sure which plan you want to look at, the standard repayment plan is the one that we choose for all students as a default plan. You can definitely choose other repayment plans that are very popular right now, such as Save and other income-driven repayment plans. As I scroll down, you'll be able to see the amount that is being borrowed or total expected for aid, as well as if you want to save money on the cost of your loans, here's what early payments would look like versus if you do not pay early payments, how much more you'll spend in interest. We also have a net price calculator that is being provided by College Scorecard. You'll be able to click this link and get more information on your specific school, the program that you choose, and the cost associated with that. If you have questions about other forms of financial aid, you'll be able to use all the other resources provided here on this page. Let's say that you're not currently interested in borrowing more, but you want to go to one of the other intents of Loan Simulator. You can click on the Struggling with Repayment, which will give you more information about the different options that are out there currently. I'm going to continue on with 15,000 as my salary and that I'm single again. The same dependent status, so we can keep it continuous throughout. But I want to talk more about what my situation is. So I'm currently paying too much money in student loans. My expenses are too high, and I don't really know what my repayment will look like. In addition, let's say that I am currently receiving other benefits or getting treatments. So I want to put in that information and I can press continue. Again, we see how many loans I currently have. And then we can see simulations for applying for an income-driven repayment plan. We can simulate and apply here and look at all the advantages or disadvantages of an income-driven repayment plan. I can also look at economic hardship deferment. So here I see something a little different where if I go on a deferment, it will temporarily stop my payments. There will be interest subsidy benefits and potential to count for IDR. However, which is income-driven repayment plans. However, it says that I will not be able to count for public service loan forgiveness or long-term solutioning. So this is not something that you can do for a very long time. It is temporary, and once the deferment period ends, then you'll go back into repayment. You can also look at general forbearance, which will show you that temporarily stops your payments, but all these other options do not count. So you can take a look at the advantages and disadvantages again here under that. And if you choose to apply for forbearance, you can. If you choose to apply for deferment, you can. And if you choose to simulate and apply to learn more about the income-driven repayment plan, you'll be able to do that as well. However, what I'd like to do is go back to the start and look at the repayment strategy, which will help me discuss some of the repayment plans that we offer online and the ones that we're actually eligible for. So in this case, I have a job, I have filed taxes, I do have dependents. So you want to click all the scenarios that apply to you so that we could be helpful in showing you and simulating as accurately as possible, as Loan Simulator provides you an estimate of what your student loans repayment could look like. So in this scenario, I remain single. Currently, it will have whatever information we've inputted in here. So I've said that I live in the state of Texas, so I'll leave that there. I will continue on with at least one dependent each. And currently my salary is 15,000. You may notice that I'm adjusting the income growth here. This is what we expect for your income to grow. So I'm going to put 2% since I'm an active college student as opposed to actively out in the work career. So now we see our student loans again, approximately $94,000 in debt with an average interest rate of 4.8%. So for this purpose, I'm not going to simulate what it looks like for public service loan forgiveness, but you can turn on and toggle yes if you decide to look for the information and enter in any of your information that may fit. If you're a federal government employee, working for the state, local government, tribal, you can choose your options or none of the above. So for me, I'm going back to no and continuing. So my primary repayment goal, most people that I talk to want the lowest monthly payment possible or the lowest monthly payment over time. So they don't want their payments to change. Other people may want to see what it looks like if their loans are being paid off as fast as possible. So with $94,000 in loans, I want the lowest monthly payment. So I'm going to choose this option and press continue. So currently it's telling me my recommended plan, which is consolidating 10 of my loans so I can have the lowest monthly payment of 0. How is this possible? I'm sure a lot of you have this question, or why will my payments be $0 until September 2048? And what we're trying to do is explain based on your current income, because the recommended plan is an income contingent repayment plan. It's based on how much you make, your family size, and your monthly payments are generated off of that. 20% of your discretionary income can be put towards paying off your student loans. In this case, with me making $15,000 a year, as well as having one dependent, that's my child, and one dependent that is not my child, I'm able to have $0 monthly payment. So I'd be paying 0 throughout my loan. As my income comes up, there will be a chance for you to actually renew your status, and you would have to provide your yearly income as requested to make sure that you're still at this current monthly payment. You can also view and compare other plans out there. Some of you may have mentioned Save and trying to see how and what plans will benefit for you. In this case, Save is not an option and is showing as an ineligible plan, but we have other repayment plans that may be better options for me. $0 payments may feel a little strange for some, so I could go to an extended graduated repayment plan or a graduated repayment plan, and I can look at some of these full plans to get an option or an idea of what this would look like. So based on my loans, my payments will start at $382 and then continue to go up from there. Over time, I'd pay $180,000 when I took out $95,000 in loans, and my interest paid would be $85,000. My forgiveness amount would be the amount that would be forgiven at the end of my loan period. And in this case, it'd be 0 based on the plan that I chose. So you can go back and look at this information, or you can compare multiple plans. So I'm going to compare my recommended plan as well as the extended graduation plan, and I will take a look at the standard repayment plan. So these 3 plans that are reflected show me how much I'm going to pay in interest and in principal. So you see the variables here. On the ICR or income contingent repayment plan, there's $0 payments versus these other 2 plans. Then I can compare the information here as well and look at each individual full plan to show me exactly what I'd be paying. So let's say $15,000 is not how much we make, but we want to see if we can simulate more. Then we can go right here to the right-hand side of your screen and type in a larger amount. So let's say when we graduate from college, we'll be making about $60,000. And let's change the family size down to 1. I want to apply these changes so that I could see different options on how my student loan payments would change. So in this case, they still recommend that you consolidate 10 of your loans for the lowest monthly payment. And now the extended graduation or graduated repayment plan is the payment plan that is best for me and being recommended. So I could go back here and compare the plans to see all the plans that would be options for me, or I could see again the ineligible plans that are not recommended. What I'd also like to call out is you can look at paying less overall, so you can compare plans, considering alternatives. So maybe there's pros and cons of consolidating. You're not quite sure if you want to consolidate all your student loans. Then you can also look at paying less in interest. So you can contact your servicer and you would find information about saving some money on your interest rate, which I highlighted here as a point reduction. In addition, you can also see other options as far as struggling with Repayment Wizard, which we've already looked at. I'd also like to show you other repayment goals. So maybe the lowest monthly payment isn't the option that I want, but I want to simulate the lowest total paid over time because I don't want my student loan payment to fluctuate. I would like it to stay the same. Then in this case, I can choose lowest total paid over time. And now based off of my income, my monthly payments have now readjusted to $757. So in this scenario, $757 would be what I would pay each month, and my last payment in my repayment plan would be at $819. And this is all based on my income, based on my personal information that I inputted here. So you can play around with the changes to make adjustments where you choose, and also play around with the repayment goals. Some people want to pay it off the fastest that they can. And if we look at that plan, it'll also still be the income contingent repayment plan, where the payments are $757 and would be paid off by 2037, which is roughly about 14 years from now. And right now, I'm just kind of going back through the plan so you can see all of the options that were variables and actually look at some of the key information here. The payoff date, that's based off of when I started my repayment in this scenario, which is, again, an estimate. So we want to make sure that you guys know that this is reflecting the information based on when I started repayment. The forgiveness amounts in these plans are 0 based on my income and other factors. Here, if I wanted a lower payment initially, I could go pay off until September of 2053, which will be a longer time if I just kind of tough it out and pay a little bit more. If I have the ability to, I could finish in 2037. So again, you want to make sure that you are playing around with the estimates for Loan Simulator and trying to get as accurate as possible. But overall, you're still going to be looking at an estimate of what your student loan repayment will look like. And in these scenarios that I provided you, you can also, if you're a public servant or looking at public service, you can turn on the PSLF tool to show you which plans are PSLF eligible. So at this time, once I changed it, the consolidation went to 8 of my 10 loans for the fastest payoff. The payments are slightly different, as well as for PSLF, that's 10 years. So it's giving me a 10-year payoff based on the information that it currently has. And now that we're finished with the demo, let's talk about the additional resources. So we're going to share some of the helpful resources that you may find on the studentaid.gov website. So again, you can go to studentaid.gov and look at the loan simulator. You can also look at the end default, getting out of default webpage, the versatile loan calculator. We have an article based on the loan simulator that can provide additional information that I didn't necessarily share throughout the demo, as well as how to avoid student loan forgiveness scams. There's an article as well. You can also look for us on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, our Instagram page, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Outreach YouTube. The FSA Outreach YouTube channel, we will be recording and you will have a copy of the recording. It will be live tomorrow on our YouTube page. So take a look at that. That's youtube.com at FSA Outreach. And next we will be doing our Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Shanique and Fred, for this wonderful presentation. There are a few questions, so let's just jump right in. So the first question we have here is, what happens if I sign up for a type of repayment plan, but I find out that another plan is actually better for me? Can I make a change in my repayment plan?
Yes, you can make a change in your repayment plan. What would be the best case scenario if you do use Loan Simulator is to look at which estimates fit better for you and then contact your student loan servicer to see which options actually work best for you.
Excellent. And this is the question for either you or Fred in regards to what if you have an option, the option that they are seeing through the loan simulator or elsewhere, that the lowest payment still is too expensive for them? Do they have any other options or statuses that they can ask for from their loan servicer?
So there are definitely options. You want to look at which one is going to be best for you. It could be a deferment, it could be forbearance, or it could be an income-driven repayment plan. It's always going to depend on what your scenario is and speaking to your loan servicer so you keep them in the loop so you're not defaulting or not making payments and experiencing other hardships because of it.
That's a great point. I just want to reiterate again, you want to avoid default. So if that is something that if you're having some hardships or economic hard times, you definitely want to contact your servicer or give us a call at Federal Student Aid at 1-800-4FED-AID if you don't know who your servicer is, and consulting with them in terms of your options, in terms of repayment plans, or as Shanique indicated, you can apply for a deferment or forbearance.
Excellent. So here's a question about Fresh Start. So if the person is nearing default now, they're not in default right now, but they are close to it in a number of days, do they have time to apply for Fresh Start? Is there a deadline to apply to Fresh Start?
Well, the Fresh Start program expires in 2024, I mentioned earlier, but you definitely want to, it is pretty much for those who are already in default. So if you're not in default, that's not going to be open to you. I don't know how close you are to default, but you definitely want to give us a call at the number I mentioned earlier. I'll give you that phone number here so you can make note of it. It is 1-800-621-3115, and they can consult with you in terms of your situation.
Excellent, thank you. Shanique, here's a question about the loan simulator. If their income is variable and they don't really know what their income may be, how can they best use the loan simulator?
So what I would use is the information that you put in on your taxes. So with Loan Sim, we want to get as close as possible. So your adjusted gross income from your federal taxes will be very helpful. It's not based on by the minute. It's typically based on the information that you provide on your taxes for your salary. So to be more helpful, for instance, right now, we wouldn't be able to provide 2023 income because we'd be using taxes from 2022. So I would utilize that information to provide a good standpoint for me. And then I would use LoanSim based off of that. And if I know that the amount may go up, I would also simulate that amount plus how much ever I'm making now. Or if I know that amount may go down, I would simulate that amount minus what I make now. So I would always have like an option to see what the 3 points would be: the low end, the medium, and then the high end.
Excellent. And let's take that a little step deeper here from another question. It's asking about the accountability of the loan simulator. I think what they're really asking is the difference between a loan simulator and the IDR application. So the question is, if you don't have to prove your income, what's their accountability to simply misreporting? And I think you already answered a little bit about that, about how it's connected to the taxes.
So I would say to dig deeper, we do have some kind of steps to show you where to grab the information from on your taxes. Most people don't know their adjusted gross income off the top of their head. So there are steps that you can Google or use from our website that would help you. We also have the income-driven repayment plan application, which will help you get to the FTI module, which brings in the IRS information for you. So through the loan simulator, we try to get as close to it as possible by asking you the additional questions that would help decrease your salary based on the answers that you provide. So I would say that I try to be as truthful and as detailed as possible with the information that I'm providing to get the best results.
Correct. So this is a simulator, guys. This is not the actual application. So it's different. When it comes down to monthly payments, if you're trying to do PSLF, is there a way in the loan simulator where I can see what would be eligible for PSLF and what would not?
Yes, so you can toggle on the button that I showed you to the right, or when you're answering questions and you're asked, would you like to simulate what PSLF would look like if you went into repayment based on the repayment plans, you can press yes and start to enter preemptively the information that you have to see if your payments will go down based off of PSLF and show you the time frame, which is typically 10 years or 120 payments. If you forget to do that throughout the flow, then at the end where I showed you on the right-hand side of the page, you're able to adjust and click simulate PSLF and then toggle yes and apply changes so that you can see those plans.
Excellent. And this is a general question. Fred, is there a difference of when the repayments status starts from a student versus a Parent Plus loan?
Repeat that question again.
Is there a different date of repayment status from a Parent Plus loan and a student?
Oh, very much so. Parent Plus loans, typically you have repayment begins within 30 days of disbursement. And again, the parent is responsible for repayment. They're borrowing on behalf of that dependent student, whereas student loans like your subsidized or your Stafford unsubsidized loan, direct loan, I should say, those typically are not due until after you complete your education or go below half time. So typically, if you are in school for 4 to 5 years and you're on track for graduation and you do graduate, you have a grace period after you complete your education, 6 months grace period, and then repayment clock begins for you. So again, the Parent Plus loan, and you can follow up with your loan servicer for more detailed information, or studentaid.gov to find out more information. But typically, the grace period for a student who has a direct loan, sub or unsub loan, is a 6-month period after you complete your education, where the Parent Plus loan is sooner, unless you ask for a deferment or request a hold with your servicer.
Excellent. And Fred, just stay right there. This is a question in regards to that. What's the difference between forbearance and deferment?
Typically, I say one word: interest. The deferment is something that one can apply for. There's different types. The most common one is the in-school deferment, where the government is paying the interest while you are in school, as long as you remain in school above half-time status. Whereas the forbearance, the interest is continually accruing, even though your principal amount required to repay back is on hold because of the forbearance request. So basically, the government is paying the interest on one where it is not paying on the other, and the interest is continually accruing. You do have the option to pay that interest if you choose only, but you want to make sure, and there's certain time limits that these deferments are open to you, as well as deferments. So you want to make sure you contact your loan servicer to get those details.
Excellent, excellent. Shanique, here's a question regarding estimating your income, and if it changes drastically, can it be updated yearly and then a new monthly rate, or is it just the same with what you put in when you first applied?
So it's based on when you certify. So some of these repayment plans will require you to recertify every year or every 2 years. So you want to be mindful of when that comes up. If you are experiencing an increase in your salary or your adjusted gross income, or you get married, or other variables that change throughout, your personal life, then you're at a point where you would contact your student loan servicer, inform them about the change, and they will likely ask for recertification at that point. So I would say you would call your student loan servicer, explain to them what your situation is, and then go from there. You only have to recertify when you're asked to recertify. So the choice is yours. I would make the smartest choice and update my information as soon as possible. However, your payments may still be at the chosen amount until you alert them of the change.
Excellent. Okay, we got 2 more questions here. Fred, so for this question is regarding finding out who your loan servicer is. So what are some ways that they can identify who their loan servicer is?
Great question. The first thing I would suggest you do is check out our website, studentaid.gov. The second thing, or probably vice versa, most important thing is to sign up for a studentaid.gov account, where you'll have an FSA ID, and then that will give you customized information. And once you obtain that FSA or ID, or open your studentaid.gov account, you'll have customized personal information on your dashboard, and there you'll find who your servicer is, how much your loan balance is, if you have a loan out, what your grant levels are, et cetera, et cetera. So I would strongly encourage you to go to studentaid.gov, establish an account, obtain an FSA ID, and you'll have personal information with name, phone number, and address of who your servicer is.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll close out with one more. Let's see. Let's do, is there any reason why a repayment plan, or can it be shown why a repayment plan is not a good advantage for a borrower?
So within Loan Simulator, it's typically not expressed why a repayment plan is ineligible. Certain repayment plans have income information. So you want to make sure that if you're trying to get a specific plan, that you compare it to the plan that you actually are eligible for, or the plans that you are eligible for. So right now, I saw that someone was asking a question about SAVE, but based on that person's dependents, their filing status, as well as how much they made and how much they plan for their income to grow, it wasn't the best option due to the repayment goal that I had. As you change your repayment goals, different plans will be recommended. So if you just don't meet the requirements for it, it will let you know by putting it in the ineligible plans.
Wonderful. Thank you guys both so much for all this great information and webinar for today.